Hello everybody, I'm Chun-Li. I'm studying at the College of Architecture and Urban Planning, Tongji University, as a PhD candidate. The title of my presentation is Ecological Western in Traditional Lake Landscapes, Lessons from the History of West Lake Governance in Ancient China. I'm going to give this talk in 6 parts. First, introduction. Second, study objects. Third, research methods. Fourth, results. Fifth, conclusion. And finally, discussion. My purpose today is to stop and think through the aspects of urban environmental history. As the God said, all crises in modern society are rooted in and interpreted by ecological crises. From the era of industrial civilization to post-industrial civilization stage, the relationship between human and nature achieved a critical point. So, the history of ancient Westlake governance may contain the precious experiments of ancient Chinese people to protect the utilized nature, which may reflect the traditional ecological wisdom of Chinese. And here is my 3 research questions. First, from the Eastern Han Dynasty to Qing Dynasty, what historical stages did the water landscape of West Lake experience under the influence of human beings? And second, what are the special characteristics of water landscape of West Lake in each historical stage? What are the major historical events that impact the evolution of West Lake? And the third question is from the perspective of urban environmental history. What lessons or values can we learn from the governance of water landscape in West Lake that are useful to human society today? Then, I'd like to introduce my study objects. West Lake is located in Hangzhou, Zhejiang Province, China, covering about 43.3 square kilometers. West Lake cultural landscape, oriented in 9th century, took shape in 13th century and flourished in 18th century. You can see the location of West Lake in Hangzhou urban area. And the formation of West Lake has gone through 3 historical stages. The spatial scale of my research is the last stage, artificial governance period. In addition, I take Zhu Kezhen's research about historical temperature changes in China as background biases, and the time horizon is from Eastern Han Dynasty to Qing Dynasty. Next, I'd like to give a brief description of the research methods. It can be divided into 2 steps. First, use image as historical evidence. Second, mutual proof between image and history. Use image as historical evidence affirms that image can have the same historical proof value as other types of historical materials, such as documents and books. Mutual verification of images and history is used to search for information in literature and ancient books to support the new findings in images. The data processing is into the 3 steps. First, collecting images. Second, image description. Third, content recognition. Besides, the image data contains 3 types: graphical, images data, narrative image data, and lyrical image data. Original stage is Eastern Han Dynasty to Sui Dynasty. During the Han Dynasty, Qiantang County had developed into a certain extent, but the county borders the Qiantang River in the south. The Qiantang River tide campfires often divided the city, seriously affected the people's life and production. Huaxing organized the local to transport soil and stones to the bank of Qiantang River in the east of county and built a seawall between the West Lake and the Qiantang River to prevent the invasion of tide. After the construction of seawall, the seawater could no longer enter the city, so West Lake was completely isolated from the sea and become an inner lake. The developing stage is from Tang Dynasty to Northern Song Dynasty. The sixth wheel was struck by Li Bing in the Tang Dynasty. In the painting of literature, a leisure in Westlake, there are 6 wheels and Jinding Palace wheel from Qianhu Guide to Qiantang Guide. The wheel was surrounded by bluestone bricks with reed fence above the brick to prevent bolts and accurate plants to pollute the clean water resource. And in Northern Song Dynasty, before Su-shi governance Hangzhou, the West Lake was too shallow to transfer water to the canal. Water transport was blocked, and 6 wheels were close to being abandoned. Su-shi built a leaf from south to north across the lake from the herbs and steels excavated from Dragoling, which facilitated transportation and shaped the landscape of West Lake. The painting of leisure also shows the magnificent scenery of Su's Leaf, which was lined with flowers and willows, and 6 bridges and 9 pavilions. And the flourished stage is from Northern Song Dynasty to Southern Song Dynasty. The ruling scales, headed by the royal family of Southern Song Dynasty, built gardens beside the West Lake, and the residents along the lake also used the lake to plant lotus and other economic crops. Growing number of population and large number of human activities on the West Lake caused the disturbance of plant community section. The public building around the West Lake integrate with numerous surrounding gardens, temples, becoming an integrated part of the whole West Lake landscape area. Recession stage from Yuan Dynasty to Qing Dynasty. Yuan Dynasty, only a line of lake water was left east of the Su Leaf. The flock song 10 miles of lake and light 10 fence vividly describes the extent of swamp at that time. And in the Ming Dynasty and Qing Dynasty, in the early 16th century, due to the expansion of agriculture, the West Lake space almost disappeared. During the region of Qing Dynasty, Li Wei set up a set of 18 West Lake spots as the core of the new West Lake public tour systems. You can see the picture below. The West Lake in Yuan Dynasty is much larger than the West Lake in Qing Dynasty. In conclusion, I'd like to indicate the following points. First, making government according to the time. We should govern according to the time and place and make rational use of natural resources. Second, gaining profit according to the situation, the construction of Westlake, which only focus the subjective spatial demands of feng shui or sightseeing tends to disappear gradually in the historical evolution. And the third, integrate nature and society, which means taking advantage of situation. Finally, I must say a few words about the perspective question of the studied issues. About my study, how can we do to make the historical research be qualified and convincing? And second, also about my study. In the process of understanding these image factors, we are often unable to establish a system of understanding and interpretation because of the lack of background context, so as to make specific explanation for details within images. What can we do to break out of this dilemma? About the session, how to find the way to the solution of climate change adaptation, maybe from the perspective of history or social governance, or etc. That's all. Thank you for your listening. And here is my email address. You can contact me wherever you want.